Women in sports face unique challenges. At the coaching level, the challenges are amplified. Women's teams don't always receive equal funding. There's controversy in uniforms and disparities in equipment, fans, community support, and more. The exclusion of women in sports can lead to psychological and emotional issues. Our next feature is an inspiring example of changing the game. Women's Business Report had an opportunity to catch up with its alumna, Dr. Jen Welter, the first female to coach in the NFL. You have achieved amazing milestones, and you have broken barriers, broken the glass ceiling. You have played in the arguably most male-dominated sports that there is. Tell me what that's like.
Well, first of all, let's just get this out of the way. Though there are more men, it does not mean that we say that they dominate. They've just had more opportunities, and that's what's important, right? Every time we get women and girls on the football field, it's a win, right? Before they even play, it's a win, because they call this the final frontier for women in sports. So to me, I took that as a challenge. I took it to heart. Why is it America's game, but it's the one only played by, not even half of America. It's only open to half of the population. So if we in America say that this is our game, why wouldn't we want everybody to have the opportunity to decide if they want to play? It's not for every girl, it's not for every boy, it's not for everyone. But everyone should have the opportunity in this sport and in life to try it and decide if it's for them. That's what's important. So with these girls and with women, I always say, anytime you get on this field, it's a win. Because we've taken one of those places and spaces that were taboo out of that, you can't category. And we've said you can with great coaching, right? And you can with opportunity. And so in my own career, that's what I always said. You have to be prepared to step up to every challenge, because the things that I've done weren't even things you could dream about when I started playing.
In honor of literally shutting out the world, if you were to go back into, Madden 20 and Madden 21, and you played shutdown defense, you would be playing my team. So I was the first female to be a head coach in Madden, and it's team shutdown. If they don't score, they can't win.
And so that's what I still constantly work on, is being prepared to be able to step up to any new challenges. And I want to take that and pay it forward in any of the girls that we then bring on the field. It's like, you can win on the field. I've won a lot, right? Won a lot of rings. But I had to believe that every time I stepped on the field, it was a win, because it was taking some of those taboos away.
You've studied psychology, so you uniquely understand that exclusion has an impact. When girls are excluded, it can have an impact emotionally, psychologically. It can lead to trauma. So what would you say is the biggest thing that we can do to help solve for that trauma?
Well, let's look at it this way. We tell kids all the time, boys and girls, you can do anything you want to do. You can be anyone you want to be. Oh, except for that. So some of your dreams are more valid than others, and some of these things are okay, but others aren't, simply because of whether it's your gender or the color of your skin or where you came from. And anytime you see that, it takes a little bit of the power out of telling someone they can do anything. Because you gave an asterisk to it, right? You just asterisked me to death. You can do anything except this, except this, except this, except this. Please read the following subtitles. Well, then I really can't be or do anything. I can do certain things if I fit in your box, right? And so every time we take one of those little asterisks out of the equation, we give them permission to be a little bigger, to be a little bolder, to try something new. And the way that we have to do it, I even laugh in some of my drills. I tell the kids, I'm like, all right, do you want to get really good? They're like, yes. Great, we've got to get really ugly. And they're like, what? Oh yeah, it takes get really ugly to get really good. So I want you to have permission to be super awkward right now. And that makes it okay to stretch yourself and to try something else. But we have such a society right now that's based on instant gratification. and fear of repercussions of not being perfect. So what do? We give them permission to try things. We want to give permission to laugh, try, to get ugly, to get uncomfortable, and to realize that you then get to see where you fit and where you might want to invest time to get better. So it's really important to be intentional about not just telling kids that they can be anything, but bringing them into those situations where they might have heard they could do anything, but then what they saw was anything except that. And every time we can take that away, that takes away one of those question marks that pulls from your psyche. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. So you're a trailblazer. You are the model. There was no model before you. So tell me what that's like. You're creating the model.
But I literally tell people who like to romanticize the word trailblazer, I'm like, oh, please don't. All trailblazer means is that you were the one who saw the woods and believed you had to get to the other side. And so when there was no map, you just kind of stumbled your way through, which means you stepped on the big rock. You went into the, you can't go that way. You turn back around, you got a branch here, and then you say, oh, that wasn't cute. Like, I gotta cut this down. And so it's ugly and it's awkward and it's lonely because first inherently means only. But when it's done, the beauty is that once it's been done, it can't be undone. Now it can be built upon, but that's what you want. You need a first to get a second and a third and a fourth, and then there's strength in numbers. But being the one is tough because at that time, the entire narrative surrounding whatever conversation that is, whether it's women coaching men or something like it rests on your shoulders because it's a sample size of one. And so that's hard. But the power is when you see girls like these who get to grow up with it being a possibility, because representation is so important, right? I need to see somebody who looks like me or who came where I'm from or acts like me or reminds me of me doing it. So it gives me permission to dream about it and then set goals around it. So that's where I always say it's a hard path, and where I fortify myself to keep going forward is for those that it clears the way for. And that's the power that you have to have, is this belief that your path isn't just yours. You're doing it for something bigger than yourself. Because if it's just me wandering around, that's lonely and that's scary.
Right.
But when it becomes about something bigger, that's where we all find our purpose and calling, right? We say football, family, and faith. Those are all about things that are bigger than us. And I think that's what you have to remind yourself of when you're first, because that's only.